The health secretary, in a recent interview, mentioned about the government's plan to prioritize UK medical graduates over IMG doctors for specialty training. And although there's a clause that for IMG doctors who have been in the NHS and have been rendering their services as doctors in the NHS will be considered. However, the extent of the consideration is what is not clear. And I think now we know that next month, July, there's going to be a whole statement released about the whole a report that is going to be released about this said plan. And of course, we are expecting that there's going to be more information or clearer details about what exactly is going to happen, when is it going to be implemented, what level of consideration is going to be given to IMG doctors, and a whole lot of that. So those details will be documented clearly, and so I guess by next month we have a clearer picture of what what should be expected in terms of the UK medical graduates prioritization. However, for doctors who are outside of the UK, I do not think that there might be a plan that will actually include or involve these categories of doctors. And so that brings me to the discussion of today, which is answering the question, is it still worth it moving to the UK in 2025 as an international medical graduate doctor, an IMG doctor? And I feel like this is a very important question that we should answer. And the only reason I'm doing this is so that we can lay all the cards on the table, and whoever is going to be making a decision will have the opportunity to be able to make an informed decision. That is really the reason why I'm making this video, and I feel like somebody has to do this. It's for people who are outside of the UK. They may not have access to what is happening in the country, and even if they do, they might not have full details like those who are living in the country. And that's why I feel okay, I feel it's actually something that could be beneficial to this category of people if I am able to put enough information out there for them to know what exactly is going on, the current situation of things, and so that they can make informed decision. Hello, my name is Blessing, and I'm a doctor currently practicing in the UK. And here on this channel, I talk about medicine. I share about my journey as an IMG doctor in training here in the UK. Feel free to actually join the community. You're welcome to be a part of us. So without further ado, let's just get into the discussion of today. Okay, so I'm going to be starting this discussion by just analyzing this situation of UK medical graduates being prioritized over IMG doctors. So until now, UK medical graduates and IMG doctor have like equal opportunity to be able to get into specialty training here in the UK. But now with this prioritization thing that is going to happen, it means that UK medical graduates will have to be given offers first, and whatever is left is what IMG doctors will actually qualify for. Now, as it is, yes, although there's been some talks about government planning to increase the number of specialty training posts, but right now, I think we have about 12,000 thereabout of specialty training posts here in the UK. And based on the analysis in terms of the number of medical graduates, and I'm sure peradventure you're not aware, as part of the government's plan to actually increase the number of domestic workforce, the number of undergraduate medical training has been increased over the past few years. And so the number of medical graduates have gradually increased over the past few years, and it is anticipated that in 2025 over 12,000 should graduate from medical schools across England as doctors. And so that brings us to the point of, if we have 12,000 slots and we have over 12,000 doctors graduating, of course, you know that not everybody might want to get into training the same year they qualify to actually get into specialty training, which is after the foundation year 2 program. Some person might want to have some career break. Some person might maybe not get into their desired specialty and might want to wait for another year. You know, a lot of other things can happen in the process. So we are saying that it means that a significant amount of the available training slots will be covered by UK medical graduates. Now, also keep in mind that there are some doctors who are IMG doctors already working in the NHS. And so if the consideration is made such that they also are able to get into specialty training slots, it means that they also will have to compete for this limited spaces. And so I'm just saying, just imagine what then is going to be left for IMG doctors who are outside of the UK. It means that there will probably not be enough slots, very limited slots, which means that the competition will now be very, very high. As many international medical graduates outside of the UK, we have to be competing for limited roles that are available to them within the NHS. And so that actually will also worsen the competition in terms of the available training slots at the end of the day for this category of doctors. Now, the other thing is IMG doctors outside of the UK may not be able to get into specialty training for their desired or choice specialty, because if the spaces in their preferred specialty has been completely filled, it means the implication is that they won't be able to get into that specialty that year, and they might have to wait for another year. Over the past few months, there has been some changes to the immigration policy, and even right now, there are still a lot of unanswered questions, and a lot of IMG professionals, healthcare professionals, are still not sure what is their fate in terms of settled status and a whole lot of other things like that. Yes, the white paper actually states that there will be consideration for those who contribute significantly to the economy. However, the level of consideration is what we don't know. We don't know what is going to be considered. We don't know if instead of the 10 years, is it going to become 7 years? Is this going to be the 5 years? What are the criteria that people have to score points for? Because it's now going to become a point-based system. And, a lot of unanswered questions like that. And then if peradventure it happens, and then maybe for doctors, instead of the 10 years, they reduce it to like 7 years. I think 7 years is still a long time, to keep working, seeking for certificate of sponsorship within the UK. It's actually going to be a very tough call. And also besides that, I'm just trying to tell you that as it is right now, IMG doctors within the UK are trying to find their way out. So I don't know if it makes sense for IMG doctors who are still outside of the UK to now consider coming in here. Now, if an IMG doctor is not able to come in through the specialty training post, it means that the other way by which they can be able to get into NHS or into the UK will be through the non-training post. Recently, there has also been a lot of outcry about the limited availability of these non-training roles, and also because there is a huge number of IMG doctors competing for these roles. The competition has increased massively, and it's becoming like it's almost impossible for these IMG doctors to be able to come in for non-training roles, especially because UK medical graduates too are competing for these non-training roles, pending the time they are able to get into specialty training. So based on BMA's proposition, if the government decides to go with what BMA has suggested, which is that for doctors who have been in the NHS until the 5th of March 2025, it means that they are covered. They will probably have the opportunity to be able to apply for specialty training. But then what happens to the doctors who come afterwards? I'm just guessing that they'll probably have to do the whole 2 years thing, but not so much is really guaranteed. Nobody's really saying so much about the doctors who eventually come after now. So what if you come in a non-training role and then you're not able to get into specialty training for your desired specialty? Would you feel like you have wasted your time? So if you're going to feel that way, then I think that you might need to really reconsider your options about coming to the UK, because that might eventually become the reality. IMG doctors may not be able to get their desired specialty, and so it's either you take what is available or you risk getting into specialty training. So if peradventure your plan is just okay, you just need a place, just more like a base to learn some basics, and then you move to another country, that's fine. You could get into the UK, maybe work for a year, thereabout, and then you can decide to explore other countries, with your 1 year of NHS experience, or you could even decide to go into some other countries for residency program. However, if your plan is actually like if you're somebody that you're really big on career progression and you really want to get into specialty training as quickly as possible, then I think you might, and then you're considering coming to the UK, I think this might actually be a time to think about it again, because with the current situation of things, and when eventually this UK medical graduate prioritization is implemented, it will actually become much more difficult as an IMG doctor to be able to get into certain specialties. Recently, there has also been an issue with GPs getting employment. So a lot of IMG doctors who actually get training slots for GP directly from their own country, they come in and for 3 years they are offered sponsorship to do their training. And so after their training, which is 3 years, they still need sponsorship. So they need jobs that can offer them sponsorship to work until they are able to earn a settled status. Now, the problem is, if for any reason a doctor is unable to get a job that can offer them COS after that, which Health Education England has offered, then the implication is that they might actually risk leaving the country, because if your ability to stay in the country expires, you have just about 60 days to actually leave the country. And also, with the current situation of things, there has been reports that a lot of practices are unable to offer sponsorship roles because these GP practices are struggling financially, and so they can't afford to offer sponsorship roles. And also because it costs more, and there's been a lot of changes too in terms of sponsorship. Prices for COS has been increased, and a whole lot of other things around employing an immigrant worker. If nothing really changes in terms of GP funding, it might actually become much more difficult for IMG doctors who have CCT'd to be able to get sponsorship as GPs until they earn a settlement status. So I'm just wondering, why come in here, do 3 years of GP training, and then at the end of the day, you're now faced with the dilemma of, will I still remain in the country, or do I have to go to another country? And you're now torn between whether to leave or whether to go to another country, and it can be a lot of anxiety to deal with. And so I just feel like putting all of this on the table, is this something that an IMG doctor we still want to pursue? I know for some persons you might feel like, okay, things can change. Definitely, I agree with you that things can definitely change. However, how much change do you expect will happen in terms of the current situation of things? What then could be alternatives? Because I feel like it's not just enough to come here, tell you, oh, this is the situation of things, or these are the problems, and not provide a solution. So on my end, if you're somebody who has been following my channel, you would realize that these things I'm going to suggest here, they are not new things. They are things that I keep saying every day. Number one option is, I would advise that there is the option of considering alternative countries. One, like top on the list, will be a place like Canada, Australia, US. I know that a lot of things is happening in terms of US immigration policy right now, but of course it's probably not going to be a permanent thing. So you might want to start the journey and hope that by the time you get to that final phase of the journey, things would have, the dust would have settled a lot more. There are some other countries like Canada. Canada is open to IMG doctors, and there's a whole lot of opportunities for IMG doctors in Canada. You might want to consider that. Australia is another country you might want to consider. And there are so many other countries like Republic of Ireland, New Zealand. All you just have to do is read about the requirements of this country. Go to their website, read all about it before you even start the journey. There are also some other countries in Europe that are open to IMG doctors. However, language might be a restriction. So if you don't actually mind, learning the language, then that is something you might want to consider, like France, Germany, some countries like Luxembourg. Yeah, they actually are open to IMG doctors. Now, the other option is, if you do not want to consider these other alternatives, then the next thing will be, how about you consider starting residency training in your country? I think one thing I have come to learn over time is that starting residency training in your home country can never be a waste. It's something that it could either increase your option of being able to get into certain roles, because as the competition increases, the person's specification might continue to become tighter. Like people will have to maybe get some extra, people who have extra certification or extra stuff more than the general population might end up getting the jobs compared to those who have just the basic requirement. I'm just trying to say that things might become much more competitive. So starting a residency training in your home country can never be a mistake. Even a place like Canada, if you have started your residency and you have not even completed it in your home country, there's actually an opportunity for you to come in, and even there are some pathways that are open to such categories of doctor who do not want to start residency all over again. So I feel like your residency can never be a waste, and that can be an opportunity for you to start your residency and then re-strategize, plan what is your next step. And so while you are trying to sort that out, you can start your residency in the meantime. Keep gaining the expertise, keep gaining the skill, keep developing yourself, and then eventually that might also give you enough time to know the next thing you want to do. At the end of the day, it is still your decision. If I know for some persons, it might be very difficult for them to start considering an alternative pathway because they have gone very far with the UK system already. For such category of people, I will say that as much as it might be difficult to actually get a job in the NHS, I still do not think that it is impossible. So you might just have to, maybe gain some extra qualification. It can be something as little as a diploma in something. It could be maybe going for your master's while you are waiting. It could be maybe doing some trainings and extra certifications, something that can boost your CV, that can just raise you a little bit above the general population. But then based on data, the NHS still doesn't have enough doctors. The NHS is not saturated with doctors. There's still room for more doctors. But then whether or not the government is willing to expand the opportunities to have more doctors, that is beyond us, is something that the government will have to make a decision about. So I'm just saying that you can keep applying, keep developing yourself, and keep finding ways to progress with your career, and just keep applying and hope for the best. So I'm not saying that it will be impossible to get into the system. I'm just saying that it's going to become much more competitive. But then it's not even about getting into the system. When you get into the system, then what is the quality of your career, quality of your life? What do you have in terms of career progression? What are your hopes? What are the resources available to you? How far can you go in terms of career progression after you eventually join the NHS? So I don't know. Based on the current information on ground, for anyone who has not started the PLAB journey, I think you might need to really sit down and ask yourself some salient questions and be sure that the UK is really the path you want to take, and before you get yourself into it, really. So I think this is where I'm going to be ending this video, and I think I've said the things that are most important. So feel free to actually share your thoughts. What do you think about everything that is happening right now? And do you have a different opinion? Do you think that there's something else or another alternative that I did mention about? Feel free to actually share your thoughts in the comment section. Anyway, when the statement is eventually released in July, I'll definitely find some time to go through it and also bring it back to you guys. But in the meantime, don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, to share, and also subscribe to this channel. Until I see you again, take care. Bye.